APA. Citing is so exciting. Or not, but at least it's something we have to do. I think citing is a lot like math. I'm not expecting you to memorize a formula, but I do expect you to know where to go to find the formula and where to plug in the key features in order to get the formula right. This is going to give a little overview of citing and the different styles, but more importantly, it's going into the nitty-gritty specifics of citation practices, formatting your paper, and the things that I see are the most common errors on student papers when citing. So I'm asking you to do APA, and I know, I believe it was BJ who asked why APA. Well, we are mostly a science school. Most of you will be working in APA. So it's the most common format for this school, and so that's what we're going to be using. It's more for the social sciences, education, few humanities. MLA is strictly humanities based. We'll talk a little bit about the difference between the two. First though, we cite in order to give credit where credit's due. Anytime that you are using an idea, the exact words, images, songs, anything along those lines that came from someone else, we cite it. So this helps us avoid plagiarism, which is a big no-no. It builds your ethos as a scholar to show that you've done the work. It shows that you know who the key players are. It also shows consistency. And it allows other readers to access those resources. So I like to call following the rabbit trail. When you find a great article or a book or something that relates to the topic at hand that you're interested in, you can then go to their reference page, see the articles that they referenced, the books that they referenced, and go find those. You can even use those then in your own paper or projects that you work on for other classes. It's a great way to find resources that are about oftentimes the same things that you're writing about. But it also, if I have a question about something that you're citing or a source, I can then go find it and find that information. So on the reference page, it's all the bibliographic information. In APA, it is a reference page. It's not a works cited page. And you're citing all the works that appear in your paper. Now, a bibliography report is basically everything that you researched for that topic, regardless if it's in your paper. So this is only for the works that are within your paper. These are things like video, photo, images, quotes, surveys, you name it, it's there. And on your reference page, it should be cited by alphabetically by author's last name. It's the name, the publication date, the title of the work. If it's a smaller piece like a song title or a chapter in a book, then you also need the album and or book title as well, and all that other publishing information, page numbers, publisher's information, dates of publication, things along those lines. Now, here's the difference between APA and MLA. So APA focuses on the science, so dates are really important. When we're looking at MLA, dates are not as important because it's literature. So if we're talking about Shakespeare, it doesn't matter if the work necessarily was published in the 70s. It could still be relevant today. But in the sciences, if we're talking about something, work that was published in the 70s could be incredibly outdated. So dates become really important. It's also, you use the author's last name and typically a first initial or just the author's last name. First names are not given. In addition to, you never call an author strictly by their first name. You two aren't buddies. You're not on a first name basis. You can use past or present tense as long as it's consistent, and there's a reason for using past tense. Most likely, though, you're using active tense. Okay, so citings like math. I want you to go to a place that has a formula that's easy for you to use. Diana Hacker and Owl Purdue are the two most popular. Your book has some information. There's a lot of other resources out there. The APA manual, you can use that as well, though this is kind of worse than reading stereo instructions. UAA's RefWorks, the Consortium Library, all have sources. If you're using something that creates the reference for you, you still have to check it because sometimes it's wrong. Okay, so just kind of putting that out there. So here's some things with in-text citation. When you're integrating a quote, you're using the author's last name, you're using the publication date, and the page number. So here we have Mohanty, the work was published in 2003, claims that, quote, writing is itself an activity marked by class and ethnicity, or pardon me, class and ethnic position, end quote. Then I have my parentheses, P period, the page 77, in parentheses, and then the period. That period comes after the page number. So it's marking the very end of the sentence here. If it's a parenthetical citation, it's therefore, quote, writing is itself an activity marked by class and ethnic position, end quote. In this citation, Mohanty, the name, the publication, 2003, and the page appear in the citation itself. Here, because Mohanty is in the sentence, and then right after her name we have the publication, I do not need all of that information at the end. I now just need the page number at the end. Here, because I don't have any of that information in the sentence itself, I need it in the citation. When you summarize or paraphrase, you still need to cite your work. The APA manual is a little loose about this and says that you don't need to, but it's highly recommended. For this class, do it. When in doubt, cite it out, because what happens if you don't is it runs a slippery slope of plagiarism. So when you're paraphrasing or summarizing, still go ahead and cite your work. But oftentimes, because summarizing and or paraphrasing can happen over pages, you don't necessarily need a page number. So here, this is from Mohanty's book, which was published in 2003. So your title page, which you should have, will have your full title. The full title should not be definition essay. It should not be essay number 1, but it should be something that is descriptive of your paper. It should have your name and the university. Those aren't bolded. They're not in 18-point font. They're not anything else. They're not in purple. They are just centered in plain black on the front of your paper, nice and boring. At the top of the page, it says running head. It actually says running head, followed by a colon, and then an abbreviated title. So if your title is Whales Are Us, My Life as an Advocate for Whales, your running title could be Whales Are Us, or Advocate for Whales, okay? Now here's what you're going to notice, is that on every other page, look at the running head up here. It does not say running head. So this is hard to do. It's a little tricky in word processing programs to make the title page running head different from every other page. That's something else that I see a lot of. In the main body of the paper, the title's centered. It's the very first line, and it's centered. So you have your running head, your first line is the title, the full title, and then the very next line, so the second line of your paper, starts your actual paper. It's double spaced. There's no extra spaces between paragraphs. Paragraphs are indented. There's in-text citation, and if you're using tables and figures, that they are properly formatted. So the second page of your paper is an abstract, and I did not talk about this yet, but the abstract is typically between 150 to 250 words. When you're doing a Google search for something, or a consortium library search, the little blurb that comes up about the paper is the abstract. So this is a blurb basically about your paper. What is your paper about, right? So what kind of research is in there? What kind of methods are in there? The very last line, you can see where it says keywords in italics, and it has keywords. If someone were to do a Google search for your paper, what words would they put in order to find it? I'm not talking about words like the and, but what are the keywords for the paper itself? Your reference page says references centered. It's not works cited, and it's not bibliography. It's references. It's centered. Then we have alphabetical by author's last name. And each citation is a hanging indent, which means that the first line is flush with the left margin, and every other line for that citation is indented. So Cummings is left margin aligned, and relationships is indented. With Who, Wood, and Smith, we see that that takes up 2 lines, both of the secondary, or pardon me, 3 lines, and the bottom 2 lines are indented. Okay, so it's last name, first initial, followed by date, followed by title, followed by publication information. Now, this is alphabetical by author's last name. Please make sure you pay attention to punctuation in this area. It's really important This again is coming down to you need to know the formula and what goes in the formula and make sure you're doing all the right pieces and parts. Now, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, but I encourage you to try to find your own answers. I want you to search OWL Purdue. I want you to search the consortium library. I want you to search the end of your book for how to cite interviews, because there's ways on how to cite personal communication, on how to cite a movie, on how to cite these things, because they are there, the information's there, you just have to find it. If you've done all of the sleuthing you can and you cannot find the answer, then please send me an email. I'm more than glad to ask or to answer. The final thing about APA is that you should have a page number in the upper right-hand corner. All right, let me know if you have any questions.